After long waiting for this stride, we finally got it. Where do I even begin? Okay, so before I even started my thoughts on this, I have taken a quick break, as you know, because I was actually low key on Stride because I really wanted to wait for this mega comedy Stride to come out. And we did finally get it. Well, I'm not too sure, bro. Alright, so, um, Pillaging, Mutant Deity, Depreno, wait, Depreno. I think that's how you say Depreno. Anyway, when it attacks, calls Counterblast 1, turn a card from your G zone face up. Your opponent chooses 3 face down cards of his or her G zone, turns them face up, and for each card with power turned face up, 3 of your front row units get power plus 15k to the end of the turn. That's all it does. That shit is trash. I'm sorry. It's bad on so many levels, but I can forgive it. Let me break it down for a minute as to why I can forgive it. Okay, so the issue that I have with this card is that it doesn't it doesn't really go with what Mega Comedy does. Okay, so you see this thing that Bushiroad was doing with Premium Collection 2020, right? They were doing this thing where they were trying to incorporate all of the standard cards into premium format. And if it didn't do that, it at least tried to improve on something that the clan was kind of sort of missing. For a prime example, you have the Murakumo stride that makes Hyuga playable in premium. When originally before that you couldn't really play Hyuga in premium because you'll just be wasting space. But then you also had something like, let's say the Link Joker stride for a prime example. You have the Link Joker stride where even though it didn't fit with anything that it did and with the standard stuff, it did help it out a lot in premium by giving the ability to get rid of markers, which is I think something a lot of people said that was going to happen in standard, but it turned out it just happened in premium. But that's besides the point. It kind of sort of went against the standard support, so even though it wasn't really standard orientated, it still had a place in premium format. With this particular card, however, it doesn't do none of that. Matter of fact, it feels in a way outdated if you really think about it. It's all like here's the reason why I feel like it's outdated. So if you were to look at just the standard stuff alone, just looking at the standard stuff alone, like you looked at what we got in Raging, what was it? Destructive War, and what we also got in Raging Tactics. In this Destructive War, our VR was Machining Stack, no, Spark Hercules. It was Spark Hercules, which had a very good effect, but there was an issue with that card. The issue with the card was it was an effect that doesn't exist in Mega Colony. And it's not only an effect that doesn't exist, there's nothing to support it. It gives the ability to restand all of your units and give it plus 5k. That supports Main Colony pretty fine because there's times where stuff would just come rested. For a prime example, Ornamental rests everything on the unit besides herself. So it's understandable when you put into that consideration. The second thing is this other effect where it minuses 5k from all of your opponents' Vanguard and Rearguard. It does it to every unit that's on the field. So when it comes their turn, they either have to keep that field that they have or waste cards from hand and or deck in order to like replace their field essentially. It basically forced them to replace their field, including the grade 3 they were on or anything else like that. It was a decent effect, do not get me wrong. But the problem is there's nothing that supports it. Here's a prime example of something that's similar to it, but it supports it. You have um you have Shiryuki. You know, she has a similar effect where you put on the Vanguard circle on the rear guard circle or the Guardian circle, it will either do minus 10k to 3 your opponent's units, like either on the Vanguard circle or the Guardian circle, or on the rear guard circle, it would just minus it 5k. But it also had two support cards that went with it. It was the grade 1 that can recover it from the graveyard and go into the soul, giving it more soul / more fuel for Shiryuki's effect. Then you had the grade 2, where if it didn't hit, then you would have the ability to look at the top 7 cards. You can do a 2 searcher for Shiryuki. One will go into your hand, the other will go into the graveyard. But if you didn't search for Shiryuki, then you shuffle the deck and you put the top card of your deck into the soul. And I'm gonna be real with you, I have a deck that doesn't really run Shiryuki, but it does run Jisuku Girl. And sometimes just to tell my opponent, yo, I don't even run Shiryuki in this deck, so I'm gonna just cut the deck in half, put the top card of your deck. Is that okay with you? You know, basically stuff like that. See, Shiryuki only has 2 support cards that came out in standard format, and they work so well, so perfectly. It makes it very consistent. And it's just 2 simple cards. Spark Hercules doesn't even have not one single card that can go with it as good as it should. And then you have, you know, Raging Tactics where you have Gun and Kaleo. Now all of a sudden Mega Colony is doing this thing with the mill mechanic, which honestly should have had something to do with the Stride too, but again, I guess it doesn't really matter. Anyway, we had Gun and Kaleo, which was actually a pretty good card, and yeah, we had a little bit more stuff to work with when it came to that. You have Sakuma Tooth that can put the top card of deck to the draft zone. You have Hiding Killer Leaf, where although I do not like the cost, whereas a Counter Blast and a Soul Blast, I do appreciate the other part of the effect, whereas a plus 10k and a possible draw if the card that was milled wasn't a grade 0. And then of course you have like Dillabug, or however the hell you say her name, where it basically is like a Garvis Rex in a way. I mean, you got like a lot of stuff that works with it, which is actually understandable. But again, it's not really. Oh, you got Brony. You got Brony Joke too. Yeah, you got Brony Joke too. But you don't. It's not like enough for like a consistent mill mechanic. It's like, yo, we get the mill every once in a while. There's no way for you to be consistently milling. Like, in my honest opinion, I feel like that the mill, if you're gonna make Mega Colony do this whole mill mechanic thing, the milling should be as consistent as how Nubatama could discard cards from people's hands. Like, it should be that consistent. But anyway, we got those 2 particular cards. You would think that the Stride that comes in this set would actually, you know, intertwine with either 1 or 2 of these cards. More likely Gun and Kaleo, but still, you would think that it would intertwine with both of these cards. But it doesn't. It doesn't at all. And that's kind of disappointing, especially if they made us like wait this long. You would think that, oh, it's the last Stride that comes up. It's definitely got to be good, or it definitely got to be worth it. Because let's be real, Bushiroad had a history of not really caring or giving 2 shits about Mega Colony in the first place. So you have this thing where it's like, oh, if they're saving it for last, it must be good. It must be good, but no, it wasn't. It really wasn't. Honestly, it was very disappointing to having to wait that long, and it just fell flat on his head. No, it sucks in a way. Do it suck completely in an in a way that you're expecting it? Yes, it sucks. But the reality of it is, it's kind of sort of underestimated, if that makes sense. I kind of looked at, like a few places here and there to see what people thought about the card, and everybody kind of sort of is in agreement where it sucks. I think like more of the people who actually made Make a Colony kind of seen it as like a difference, as a different way, which, do not get me wrong, is understandable, but I can also understand if they don't like it. Again, like I said, as a way of expectations, it sucks. But after thinking about it, it kind of sort of is underestimated. For one, I do believe that Mega Colony does need some type of, power boost. It needs some type of power creep or anything else like that, because it's like it has a lot of the stuff. And honestly, this has been going on since like day one. Like Bushiroad will do this thing where they will give us something, but we would get it in pieces. We will not only get it in pieces though, but we will also get it like half-assed. For a prime example, if I really had to give an example of this, I would definitely say Optyrannus. Optyrannus is a huge prime example. Optyrannus is a card that definitely helped out Main Colony a lot, especially during around the time it came out. However, the issue was that there wasn't that many ways to countercharge. Countercharging in Main Colony was very difficult. And it got up to a point where it's like whatever counterblast that you have or anything else like that, it kind of felt like it was double. So Optyrannus was a counterblast 2 of in a discard, when in reality is more of a counterblast 4 in a discard, if that makes sense. It's basically you're asking for way too much and you're returning to so little, in my honest opinion. That's kind of sort of how it's like. You're asking for too much and we're gaining so little, because it's like, yeah, we get to stop our opponent from like calling cards from the calling cards and everything else like that, but let's be real, what else are we going to do? There's no way to really gain a lot of power. You don't really have that much draw power or anything else like that. You don't really have a kill strategy. The whole thing is just basically trying to over-exhaust your opponent. That was the whole point of the deck around the time. I still kind of feel like at this particular point, it is kind of sort of the same way, but it makes it worse because the kill strategy is going to Antlion, going to Zoa, and all this other stuff. And that's way too piece reliant in a format where the format is pretty powerful. The format's pretty fast and everything in between. So the speed isn't there. They have a lot of utility. It's just that the speed isn't there. And in a format where basically offing your opponent is like as fast as possible is a thing, and the fact that it's non-existent in this clan is definitely something, especially seeing that it's just hitting below average numbers as well. Again, like I said before, most of the time when you're playing the economy, you're just basically trying to waste your opponent's resources. It's kind of sort of one of the major reasons why people just rather prefer playing Gizek or Dora, because it's legitimately the fastest way of doing it. There's not too many ways to really play aggro Mega Colony and just be as aggro as any other deck in this particular format. It's just impossible because we don't necessarily have the tools like every other clan does. However, this particular card does kind of give it a slight possibility. Another thing that I feel like Mega Colony is definitely good for is forcing their opponent to waste resources. That's another thing that they're pretty good at, and I think that that's what they were trying to go when they designed this particular card. Your opponent is forced to flip up 3 cards in the G zone, knowing damn well that you're going to have opponents that are going to try to flip up G Guardians just so that everybody could get less power, which is kind of sort of cool in a way. But again, the format, it would have been cool if the format was a lot slower. Matter of fact, I feel like that this card would have been perfect if it came out during the G era. If this came out like around the time Altaranus came out, or maybe even around the time, Overwhelm came out, this card would have been perfect. It would have been perfect in those particular formats, because although the game was still pretty fast, the game would have been slow enough for that card to be completely useful, if that makes sense. So honestly, when you look at it from a standpoint of your opponent's wasting resources, another thing to look at it from is Antlion Zoa isn't the kill combo. It isn't the kill combo anymore. You now have this card that can be the possible kill combo, whereas last time it's just like, oh, we just have to Zoa my opponent to death with Antlion, which sometimes isn't necessarily a completely bad strategy, but it gets tiring because every other clan in the game has a kill combo that doesn't resort to a Zero Dragon, that doesn't resort to a Progenitor Dragon. It doesn't resort to that. So, with that being said, I do kind of feel like it has potential. Is it a guaranteed good card? No, it's not really a guaranteed good card. It's actually pretty disappointing. But when you look at it from the standpoint of it has a lot of power that Mega Colony never really has before, and you look at it from the standpoint of it forces your opponent to waste stuff, with the exception of they have a possibility of getting the GB8 a lot faster, I feel like it's a somewhat decent card. Somewhat. I'll have to give it a 2.5 out of 5, to be honest. Honestly, as much as I want to see this as in a positive lighting, and as much as I really want to stick, I honestly don't even know anymore. It's all like we already know that it wasn't. You know what? It's not even the fact that I wasn't really expecting to be the best stride anyway. I wasn't expecting the stride to be mediocre, but I expected the stride to be. I expected it to be higher than the reality of what we got, if that makes sense. But trust me, I do believe that somebody will find a combo, somebody will find a way to make the card 10 times better than what people believe it. Because like I said before, it's underestimated. It's underestimated. That's all I'm gonna go with. So for now, like videos like this, subscribe to whatever. I'm gonna try to finish the reviews of the rest of the premium collection I'll probably do like maybe 3 stars at a time. I probably won't even do like the Cray Elementals anymore. I think the only one that really is worth talking about is Zazzy, but that's about it. So with that being said, my name is Mr. Zoo Nation, aka Savage on the Giraffe, signing